Hello.
Hey, Rick, whenever you get a call from the Money Pit drill program, you're excited. DN 11.5 is actually within the so-called treasure zone.
This cribbing spike could actually be part of the original construction of the Money Pit.
For more than 2 centuries, Oak Island has remained one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Since the search began in 1795, more than 1,000 excavations have been carried out. Over $100 million have been spent, and countless expeditions have ended without revealing the truth. Every generation believed it was only one discovery away from solving the mystery, yet the island continued to keep its secrets buried underground. Now, everything may be changing. After months of advanced investigation involving more than 4,800 survey points, 38 deep core samples, and extensive scientific analysis, researchers identified an unusual underground anomaly nearly 180 feet below the surface. Some believe it could be part of a hidden man-made structure, while early estimates suggest that, if connected to a significant historical discovery, its potential value could reach around $105 million. Although nothing has been confirmed, the findings have reignited global interest in Oak Island like never before. What makes this discovery even more intriguing is that multiple boreholes detected similar underground anomalies. Ground imaging revealed symmetrical patterns that appear difficult to explain as natural formations alone, while several core samples contained unusual features that prompted experts to investigate the area again. To verify the results, Rick Lagina and his team worked alongside engineers, geologists, and independent specialists, carefully examining every scan, every metal trace, and every piece of evidence before drawing any conclusions. Could this finally be the breakthrough that treasure hunters have been waiting for? Is there really a hidden chamber beneath Oak Island, or is this yet another mystery that will leave the world searching for answers? In today's documentary, we'll examine the latest evidence, the scientific investigations, the underground scans, and the theories behind the reported $105 million treasure. By the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer picture of what researchers have actually found, and whether Oak Island may finally be closer than ever to revealing its greatest secret. Before we begin, if you enjoy mysteries, archaeology, hidden history, and incredible scientific discoveries, make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you never miss our latest documentaries. Now, let's travel back to the year 1795, when a simple discovery on a small island sparked a mystery that has captivated the world for more than 230 years. No one could have imagined that a simple depression in the ground would grow into the greatest treasure mystery the world had ever known. For more than 230 years, Oak Island has drawn explorers, engineers, historians, and treasure hunters from around the globe. Over 1,000 excavations have been attempted, hundreds of boreholes have been drilled, and millions of dollars have been invested in the search. Time after time, investigators believed they were on the verge of a breakthrough, only for the mystery to slip away once again. Throughout the years, the island continued to reveal puzzling clues. Search teams uncovered old timber layers buried deep underground, unusual stone formations that seemed out of place, and strange subsurface readings that even experienced experts struggled to explain. Every new discovery answered one question while creating several more. Then, a fresh investigation changed everything. Using some of the most advanced technology ever brought to Oak Island, researchers carried out high-resolution ground imaging, deep-core drilling, and detailed digital geological mapping. As the results began coming in, something unexpected appeared. Underground anomalies detected from different parts of the site all seemed to point toward the same location. Several readings repeatedly highlighted an area roughly 180 feet beneath the surface, raising the possibility that something far more significant than ordinary bedrock might be hidden below. Some researchers even suggested the presence of a large man-made structure. That possibility gave rise to what has become known as the $105 million theory. According to preliminary geological interpretations and underground mapping, if the anomaly represented an ancient chamber containing historically valuable objects, its estimated worth could approach $105 million. Although the idea remained only a theory, it quickly captured worldwide attention. Discussion spread across social media, research communities, and history forums as people everywhere asked the same question. Had Oak Island finally revealed its greatest secret? Determined to avoid speculation, Rick Lagina and his team approached the investigation with extreme caution. Their goal was to let science, not assumptions, guide every conclusion. The first phase involved scanning the entire target area using high-resolution equipment. Over the course of several weeks, specialists collected more than 4,800 individual survey points, building an increasingly detailed picture of what lay beneath the island. The team then extracted more than 38 deep core samples from carefully selected locations. Every sample was meticulously labeled according to its exact depth, position, and drilling angle before being sent for laboratory examination. This careful process ensured that no piece of evidence would be overlooked during the analysis. Then came the moment that changed the entire investigation. As researchers compared the scan reports, the same underground pattern kept appearing again and again. Multiple boreholes, drilled independently of one another, all detected similar anomalies at approximately 180 feet below the surface. At first, scientists considered the possibility that the readings were caused by an unusual geological formation. However, as additional data arrived, that explanation became increasingly difficult to accept. Ground imaging repeatedly revealed straight edges and remarkably symmetrical shapes, features rarely associated with naturally formed rock. Because of these unusual results, the team authorized another round of scanning and additional drilling to determine whether the original readings could be reproduced. When the second investigation produced results that closely matched the first, the atmosphere inside the war room changed immediately. Geologists, engineers, and archaeologists realized that discovering the same pattern across numerous independent survey points was highly unusual. While some specialists argued that the evidence pointed toward an ancient man-made chamber or underground structure, others urged caution, insisting that further scientific testing was still necessary before reaching any firm conclusions. Even so, one fact had become impossible to ignore. Whatever lay beneath Oak Island deserved much closer investigation. Attention soon shifted to the biggest mystery of all. What exactly was creating these unusual readings nearly 180 feet underground? To answer that question, experts combined the ground-penetrating scans, deep core sample data, and three-dimensional geological models into a single digital reconstruction. As the information was layered together, several remarkable patterns began to emerge. The first feature that stood out was the geometry of the anomaly itself. Natural underground formations typically develop in irregular shapes, yet these scans repeatedly displayed straight lines, balanced proportions, and consistent boundaries. Those characteristics immediately attracted the attention of the research team, prompting even more detailed analysis. Another unexpected discovery followed. Several scan reports identified linear boundaries beneath the surface, almost as though separate underground sections had been intentionally divided. At the same time, multiple boreholes detected void-like signals in areas where dense, solid rock should have existed. These readings suggested the possible presence of empty spaces hidden deep below the island. When researchers combined all of these observations into a single digital model, an intriguing possibility emerged. Rather than representing isolated cavities, the voids appeared as though they might be connected, potentially forming one much larger underground space. The reconstruction surprised many of the experts gathered inside the war room, leading to intense discussions about what the data could actually represent. From that point forward, the theory of a hidden man-made structure gained increasing attention. Some archaeologists argued that if the symmetrical boundaries and interconnected voids truly resulted from ancient construction, they could represent the strongest evidence ever discovered on Oak Island. Others, particularly within the geological community, remained more cautious, suggesting that rare natural processes might still account for the unusual formations. They emphasized the importance of conducting additional tests before drawing any definitive conclusions. Even with differing opinions, the growing body of evidence ensured that the debate surrounding the possible treasure chamber became more intense than ever before. The evidence continued to fuel even more discussion. Early assessments suggested that if the underground chamber was genuinely built by humans and contained historical objects or valuable metals, its potential historical worth could reach nearly $105 million. Even so, the team stressed that nothing had been confirmed. Any conclusions would have to wait until excavation was completed and laboratory testing verified the findings. Despite the uncertainty, one question now dominated every conversation. What was really hidden beneath the money pit? The investigation returned to the very place where the legend first began in 1795. This time, however, Rick Lagina and his team were determined to let science lead the search rather than speculation. Some members of the research team believed that if the same sequence of wood and stone continued appearing throughout the area, it might indicate the remains of an ancient underground construction rather than a natural formation. Then, another unexpected result emerged. A number of core samples contained faint metallic traces. Those samples were immediately set aside for detailed laboratory analysis. Although the team refused to jump to conclusions, they acknowledged that repeatedly finding wood, stone, and metallic signatures within the same target zone was not something normally expected from ordinary geological processes. Researchers then revisited the ground imaging data. During the review, some specialists identified narrow linear features that appeared to link several boreholes together. This observation revived one of Oak Island's oldest theories, the possibility of an underground tunnel system. Some engineers proposed that these features might represent passages leading from the money pit toward a larger hidden chamber. Others remained cautious, insisting that only excavation and scientific testing could determine whether the interpretation was correct. Even with differing opinions, everyone agreed on one thing. The investigation had reached one of its most critical moments. Recognizing the importance of the latest discoveries, Rick Lagina immediately called for an emergency meeting in the war room. Geologists, mining engineers, archaeologists, survey experts, and independent scientists gathered together to examine every piece of evidence once again. For hours, the team carefully reviewed ground scans, borehole records, and laboratory data displayed across large digital screens. Their objective was simple: ensure that no rushed decision risked damaging what could become the most significant evidence uncovered during more than 230 years of searching. When the meeting concluded, Rick made a major decision. He organized a new investigation team made up of additional experienced engineers and scientific specialists. At the same time, the excavation strategy was completely revised. Instead of digging rapidly toward the target depth, the excavation would now proceed in carefully controlled stages. Every few feet, work would pause while soil, rock, wood, and any other recovered material were separated, photographed, cataloged, and documented before digging continued. If the slightest indication of a human-made structure appeared, excavation would stop immediately. The area would first undergo detailed 3D mapping, high-resolution photography, and further laboratory sampling before any additional work resumed. Rick also introduced the strictest safety procedures the project had ever used. He reminded the team that precision was far more important than speed. Access to sensitive areas would be tightly controlled, and specially prepared evidence containers would be used to preserve every recovered object. Everyone understood that even a small mistake could destroy historical information that might be impossible to recover. As news of the revised excavation plan spread, anticipation grew around the world. For many observers, it seemed as though Oak Island was finally preparing for the most important excavation in its history. At last, the day the team had been working toward finally arrived. The location repeatedly highlighted by ground scans, borehole investigations, and laboratory analysis was ready for excavation. Yet Rick made it clear from the beginning that this operation would be unlike any previous attempt on the island. The site was equipped with modern excavation machinery, precision drilling equipment, laser-based surveying instruments, and advanced digital monitoring systems. Dedicated teams of engineers, geologists, archaeologists, and safety specialists were assigned to monitor every stage of the work, so that even the smallest change beneath the surface could be identified immediately. The most significant difference, however, was the excavation method itself. Rick ordered that the dig would advance one layer at a time. Heavy equipment would no longer cut directly down to full depth. Instead, excavation would pause every 3 to 5 feet, allowing each layer of soil, stone, wood, and other recovered material to be carefully examined, documented, and preserved before work continued deeper underground. As the excavation continued, every layer of soil, stone, wood, and recovered material was carefully separated and examined. The team followed an extremely cautious process. If even the slightest indication of a man-made structure, a metallic object, or the entrance to an ancient chamber appeared, all heavy machinery would be shut down immediately. Everyone involved understood that a single careless decision could destroy evidence that had survived beneath Oak Island for more than 230 years. At the same time, the excavation site was being digitally documented in real time. Powerful laser scanners continuously mapped the area, allowing specialists to build a detailed, three-dimensional model of every newly exposed layer. This made it possible to compare the site's condition before and after each stage of digging. Every borehole, underground signal, and geological layer was instantly added to the digital database, creating a permanent scientific record for future analysis. Rick Lagina insisted that documentation be treated with the same importance as excavation itself. Every sample recovered from the site was logged with its exact depth, location, orientation, time of recovery, and physical condition. Before anything left the excavation area, it was photographed in high resolution, recorded on video, and captured using drone imagery. The team wanted every piece of evidence to have a complete and traceable history. If the reported $105 million treasure theory contained any truth, the next stage would provide the strongest answers. Soon, every significant sample collected during the excavation arrived at specialized laboratories. Rick understood that the mystery of Oak Island would not be solved by excavators alone. It would ultimately be answered through scientific testing. Wood fragments, rock samples, metallic traces, and soil from different depths were organized into separate groups and sent to multiple independent laboratories for examination. The team repeatedly emphasized that laboratory analysis would carry far more weight than speculation. If the underground anomaly truly represented something extraordinary, the scientific reports would provide the most convincing evidence. Back in the war room, anticipation continued to build. Everyone waited for the same thing, the final laboratory results. One of the first investigations focused on the metallic traces recovered from the boreholes. Scientists wanted to determine whether these signals originated from naturally occurring minerals or whether they indicated the presence of ancient manufactured objects. Meanwhile, the recovered wood fragments underwent carbon dating. Establishing their age could help determine whether they were linked to historic human activity beneath the island. If the timber proved to be several centuries old, it would strengthen the argument that an artificial underground structure might exist. The soil samples were analyzed as well. Researchers examined their chemical composition to discover whether the underground layers had formed naturally or had been intentionally disturbed and refilled long ago. The final stage involved bringing all the evidence together. Geologists combined the laboratory findings with ground scans, borehole information, and core sample data to create a new three-dimensional geological model of the entire target area. As the information was compared, several anomalies appeared to align with one another, increasing the excitement among the research team. Even so, Rick Lagina remained cautious. He insisted that no result would be accepted until it had been independently reviewed. Every report was therefore sent to additional laboratories and outside specialists to ensure that the conclusions were accurate, objective, and free from bias. When the first independent verification reports finally arrived, silence filled the war room. Several of the new findings confirmed the original data, while other results introduced fresh questions that made the mystery even more intriguing. The investigation was far from over, but the scientific evidence continued to point towards something unusual beneath Oak Island. Now, attention from around the world was focused on one final question. Could there really be a treasure worth $105 million hidden below the island? This debate quickly became one of the most discussed topics among historians, archaeologists, treasure hunters, and scientific researchers. It is important to understand that the $105 million estimate was never based on the discovery of a chest filled with gold. Instead, it was a theoretical valuation created by combining underground scan data, the estimated size of the suspected structure, historical records, and the evidence gathered throughout the investigation. A fresh series of boreholes was planned, with drilling carried out from multiple angles and depths to build the clearest picture yet of the underground layers. As drilling progressed, the atmosphere inside the war room began to shift. Several boreholes recovered fragments of wood unlike ordinary tree roots. Specialists noticed that some pieces appeared to have been cut or shaped, suggesting they might have been worked by human hands. Beneath those wooden fragments, drill cores revealed stone layers whose composition looked noticeably different from the surrounding natural rock. Geologists immediately began mapping these unusual formations to determine whether they followed a consistent pattern.